Well, good morning, everyone, and happy Easter. Here we are on this beautiful Easter morning, celebrating celebrating something very special in the world, and very special at Unity Palo Alto, of course, but celebrating the rise of the Christ Jesus, the rise of that consciousness, the resurrection of Jesus through this experience of Holy Week. And this is really the culmination of Holy Week. And as with every master teacher always wants to walk the talk, to be a part of what they're talking about so that they can show and experience and express that higher truth that they're trying to get through, that they're trying to experience. And so that's really what Holy Week is about, the culmination of Jesus' teachings, the idea of the rise in our consciousness, the rise in our awareness of this Christ nature, that is the truth of who we are. Now, Jesus broke the mold, as it was back then, a few thousand years ago, when he really broke through that idea of the crystallized thinking, broke through the ego-driven world, the sense consciousness world, broke through to that ego consciousness in the world so that we could reveal and show that each of us has that divine potential within us to rise up. Each of us has within us that Christ consciousness. Now, in Unity, we talk about this as a Christ consciousness. That's our higher consciousness. That's the spark of divinity within you. That is your good self. Whatever it is that you want to call it, however you term it, that's the part of us that is our best self. And the whole purpose and the whole point of his teachings was for us to become aware of this idea, to break through that crystallized thinking within our own consciousness of our ego or our sensor, that we're here to do and we're here to get and we're here to achieve things. But to break through that consciousness, to know that there is a deeper sense within you. There is a deeper love that is waiting to be birthed in you, to be expressed as you. And that's the crack through which he was able to break and open a door for us all to understand and to have a better understanding of who we truly are and why we're here. The culmination of his teachings come together today as he taught the path for connecting these two sides of consciousness, connecting the ego, the human, the race consciousness, that collective consciousness, and connecting it with that perfect ideal, that idea of the Christ consciousness, that ideal of your better self. And many people talk about this as if we have to get rid of that ego consciousness, where we have to only live from that Christ consciousness. But that's not how it evolved for Jesus, and that's not what he's saying to do per se. As you know, Jesus of Nazareth, when he first became aware of these ideas, he achieved that consciousness, and that's when he became, and we started to call him the Jesus Christ, that Jesus the Christ, that ideal, being in expression. Now, he knew this when he entered into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. He took up the mantle of being that consciousness, of being that awareness. He said, yes, this is who I am. I'm taking ownership of it. He hadn't realized it fully yet. But everything begins first in mind. Everything begins first with a thought. So when we start to identify ourselves with that higher potential, that higher possibility that's within us, that higher sense of who we are, we start to first identify it within our minds and within our thoughts. And then we start to articulate it within our words and our actions and our deeds. And when we align our thoughts, our words, and our actions with that principle, that's when we begin to experience that consciousness a little bit more every step of the way. And so he united these two things. He didn't say one was separate from the other. He says we are both that. We're one, and hence our at-one-ment. We're one with the principle of divine essence. We're one with God. As he often said, one of his favorite sayings was the Father within, that divine consciousness that's within us. And of course, in unity we teach that God is everywhere present. God is within all things, within all people, within all existence. And what happens is that we forget it. And that's where we create this sense of separation. We forget our at-one-ment. And so when we get back to that at-one-ment, that's called atonement. When we get back from that error thought that we're separate from that divine presence, from God, from that isness of life, then we atone, we correct our error thought. Now, in the days when the term sin came up, it was an archery term that meant just simply missing the mark. As you're firing your bow, your arrow, you don't fire the bow unless you're in Monty Python. But you're firing the arrow from the bow. And when you miss the mark, that's a sin. And so that archery term became known as this idea of missing the mark in consciousness. But we take it to a big extreme, don't we? Instead of just looking at it from the standpoint of, you know what? We missed the mark today. I missed the mark today. I wasn't my best self. And now I can go and correct myself. Now I can go and offer condolences or offer my forgiveness. Allow somebody to see that I'm taking ownership over my part of the relationship. I'm just correcting the mark. I'm just fine-tuning myself and aligning my aim, aligning my thoughts, my words, and my actions with that one presence and that one power, allowing me to express more fully and freely that Christ potential. That is what Jesus called that spiritual wholeness within us. It's that sense that we are one with the Father, we're one with that divine presence, that infinite flow of life, that breath that breathes us. We're one with that. And that was one of his main teachings, that we are one with the divine essence of life. We are one with God. Now, he also told us that God was within. He said that essence, that flow is always within us. It's ever present. There's nothing we need to do to get it. It's there. All we need to do is reawaken ourselves to that potential. We awaken ourselves to that understanding and to allow ourselves to begin to live more from that space. To begin to release and let go of all of those error thoughts without condemning ourselves, without applying more blame, shame, and guilt. Because when we release it, we let go of it, we open a space for that divine presence to flow through us, for that divine love to flow as us. And so in this time, we are celebrating that rise in our awareness of that potential within us. We're celebrating our spiritual wholeness. We're celebrating your at-one-ment with that divine essence. Now, this year where we have a theme each year, and this year my theme that I came up with, that came to me, was 2020, the roaring 2020s, embracing our spiritual magnificence. Now, I didn't really realize at the time how appropriate that is, because I think we're in the middle of a spiritual renaissance. Now, back in the 1500s, 1600s, Europe experienced a renaissance period. It was a time when Europe came out of the darkness, came out of plague, came out of pandemics, came out of war, came out of this sense of there was nothing left in life. And out of it was born an amazing time period. It may have began with the Gutenberg press, when all of a sudden that we didn't have to go to somebody to understand the Bible, to hear what these ideas were, or to understand any other master teacher in the world. We can now read it for ourselves. We can now take ownership of the understanding of our spiritual growth for ourselves. We weren't reliant on other people. This spiritual renaissance, or rather this renaissance in the 1500s, gave way to amazing growth, amazing creativity, amazing artistry, amazing plays. It was just a burst of life. And here we are standing in the same spot where we have the ability to have a spiritual renaissance, where we are all uplifting ourselves and each other. See, I think so often we take this idea of this higher consciousness or this Christ consciousness, and we put the bar pretty high. We say, well, I'm no Jesus, and that's true. But that wasn't the teaching. It wasn't just, he didn't say, you got to be like me. He said, you got to be like you. But just know that you combine that ego, that personality, that part of you with that higher consciousness. Instead of having the ego driving your day and your decisions, let your higher consciousness drive your day and drive your decisions. And let the ego just come along for the ride. Let that personality soak up the joy, express the love, feel the sorrow. But in that higher consciousness is where we live our true self, is where we have the potential to raise ourselves up. And I don't think the idea is that there's going to be one person to raise the consciousness. It is a collective renaissance for everyone. It's for all of us to rise our individual consciousnesses, our individual awareness of our Christ potential, our individual expression of that, so that we can raise the collective. And as we raise the collective, then we have a spiritual renaissance that occurs across the planet. And so our goal here today, I think our thought is to just take a moment to be aware of that beautiful presence within you. I asked a question during the week. I asked you, first off, I asked people to send flowers for our practice that we usually do. I also asked you to send me a little note to say, how are you rising in this time of shelter in place? In this time when we're cooped up with our family, our wonderful, beautiful family, in a very small house. Or whether maybe we're isolated, when we're sitting at home and we can't go out, we can't connect with people physically because there's nobody else here with me. I'm all alone. It's times like that when we can connect with each other virtually like we're doing today. When we can pick up the phone, I do what my mom does. I forget what it's called. When you actually take a pen and paper, what's that called? Writing a letter, and you put a stamp on it and you put it in the mail. Do you remember that? We can take on these different ways of connecting with each other, of supporting each other in our own rise, of supporting each other, knowing that we're here as a collective, as a group, as a spiritual community, as the world, to rise up so that we can rise in the level of the consciousness around us. So here's what you said to me. Here's how we're rising up. And as I read these, just take a moment to think about how you can rise up. Wherever you are, rise in place. Whatever's happening around you, whatever situation, you still have that potential. You still have that ability within you to focus on God the good, the omnipotence that flows in and through you, instead of focusing on what's happening around you. I rise up. I find joy in seeing happier people spend time connecting with their families outdoors. From Karen, if this is a test, my faith is clearly stronger than my fear. Feeling connected to spirit and to others, I am seeing so much goodness and light all around me every day. So where's your focus in life? Are you looking at the negative things, the stresses and strains that happen, whether the dishes are done or whether the laundry's done? Or are you focusing on the joy that's inherent in the moment? From Praveen, during this period of uncertainty and shift, I am connecting with all parts of myself that have been pushed aside into the background of my awareness, and with love and gratitude, releasing who and what no longer uplifts and nourishes me and my growth. Letting go and releasing of all of that that's no longer serving us, so we can align ourselves with that loving presence, so we can align ourselves with that inner joy, with that inner possibility. From Rusty, I am facing uncertainty and fear to move towards what really matters to me in my life. Having the courage to step forward, to live into that, to lean into that fear and uncertainty, to allow that greater potential of us to emerge. From Susan, through times of grief, we always have the choice to search around us for hope and beauty, allowing our focus to shift, not from the airplane in the sky or the poor quality of the sound, but shift to the flowers that are around us and the beauty and the song of the birds as they sing. From Cynthia, I rise up for this experience by reframing the positive and embracing the gift of more time, looking at things through a different lens and changing those behaviors, those stuck behavior patterns, those unconscious behaviors that take us into a direction of sorrow or confusion or frustration. From Joy, I'm surrendering to what is, while feeling grateful for what unfolds as I appreciate the distinction between what's beyond and within my control. That idea of non-resistance. We are here living in the flow of life. I know that there's some things that I can control. I can control my reaction. I control my response and align it with goodness, align it with my higher self, align it with kindness and compassion. From Sherry, so much can change in an instant. I rise up with gratitude every day for all that fills my life. Allowing that which we already have, that substance, that flow of life that flows through us, to focus on that and to focus on what fills us up. From Francis, take time occasionally to meditate on a flower, identifying with its unobstructed flow that is expressing in such fragrance and beauty and symmetry. Allowing ourselves to see the divine in every single flower, in every bee that buzzes by you, in every bird that sings. From Gay, I feel that I am rising up because I can accept the new normal routine in my life. Daily walking outside, participating in yoga and exercise classes online, connecting by phone with my children and grandchildren, feeling blessed for the life I have, being grateful for the expression of that divine love that fills us up, that flows through us every moment of the day. From Carolyn, my rise comes about through dedicated time each day for reflection, reading, and meditation, and taking the Q process class. I'm surprised at the ease with which changes are taking place. A beautiful statement. And from Marcy, what she said is that it's simply ineffable. It's simply beyond words. It's simply so big that we can't necessarily articulate it the way we want to articulate it. We don't have the words to say it because God is infinite. Love is infinite. That harmonizing power that flows in and through us is infinite. And every moment we realize a slightly greater expression of that love, we are rising up. I'd like to take that into our time of prayer and meditation. During this process, I asked you to send me pictures of flowers, because normally if we were at Unity Palo Alto, we would be creating a beautiful structure, a beautiful flowered cross to represent that rise in our consciousness, that rise in our awareness of that beauty that's within us. Over 32 people sent me flowers, and we received over 100 flowers. And through that, I asked my amazing graphic artist slash CEO of our household slash wife slash Tiffany to create an amazing, something beautiful for us to share as we virtually create this experience. So what I'd like you to do is first just take a moment, because we're going to do this in a meditative state. I'm going to allow you to just take a moment to turn within, to allow that sense of your potential, that sense of goodness within you, that higher sense of self to rise up within you. Take a mindful breath as we allow ourselves to focus on that divine love, that essence that is within us. Focus ourselves on that kindness, that openness, that compassion. Focus on that appreciation. And so as we breathe, I invite you to feel the breath around your heart space. Feel the breath and the gratitude and appreciation that you have for this life, for this experience with your family and friends, for all that you have in life that fills you up. Allow that sense of joy and appreciation to well up within you. And with a nice deep cleansing breath, I invite you to open your eyes and just simply stay in this state of peace, stay in this state of at-one-ment, stay in this state of accepting your potential as Margot sings and as we show the video of our flowers blooming within us.
so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
And as we breathe into this present moment, we acknowledge that divine potential that is within us, that is within everyone we see. And so we embrace that divine light. We allow that light to shine brightly from us today. We allow ourselves to be guided by kindness and compassion. We allow ourselves to be seeing through the eyes of gratitude and appreciation. We allow ourselves to be quick to forgive, to be loving, to experience and express that inner peace, that joy that is natural within us. For the beautiful flower that you are, for that beauty that is growing within you each day, allow that beauty to shine brightly. Allow that beauty to lead us into a renaissance of spirituality. Allow that beauty to shine, to flourish, to be you. With a nice deep cleansing breath, I invite us to return our attention to this space, to this time, to gently open your eyes when you're ready, to allow that expression of light to fill you up and to radiate from you. Our goal here, our purpose at Unity Palo Alto is fairly simple. We're here to help you discover that spiritual magnificence and live that spiritual magnificence that you truly are every day, to help you live life better. And now for our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Have a wonderful Easter. Peace and blessings.